शारदा शारदाम्बोजवदना वदनाम्बुजैः सर्वथा सर्वतास्माकं सन्निधिं क्रिया विवेकिनं महाप्रज्ञं धैर्योदारक्षमानिधिं सदा विनवपूर्वं तं विद्यातीर्थगुरुं भजे अज्ञानां जाह्नवीतीर्थं विद्यातीर्थं विवेकिनां सर्वेषां सुखदं तीर्थं भारतीतीर्थमाश्रये विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विदुशेखरभारती. Humble pranams to all the teachers here. First of all, it gives immense joy to be back after missing two vital December delights in 2020 and 2021. So staying connected gives a lot of energy to me personally. So I volunteered myself, to be very honest, to Sheila to say that I want to be here. Will you give me an audience? And that's how we are here. So, great pleasure to be back into this hall to meet you all. Namaste, sir. Now, the question is, you'll all be wondering, what should a senior counsel be talking about children, school, and post-pandemic impacts? That's the first question that will be running in your mind. So I thought before I venture to speak on this, it's my duty to first clarify this in case a cobweb in your minds. This talk was assisted. 15 people have assisted us in preparing this speech. And I should mention their names. And about 3 to 3.5 weeks of efforts have gone into this to make it as realistic and as practical as is possible to the best of our abilities. So before we proceed to speak on this subject, it's our duty first to acknowledge the selfless efforts of the following individuals. At the outset, first I should thank your Secretary Parent Teachers Association, Anita Nanswamy, for her initiative. It was she who connected me with a lot of people who knew well in this subject. So thanks to Anita. 3 of my juniors worked for 3 weeks on this subject. Rahul Vijay Kumar, Sri Ram Narayan, and Miss Amrita. These are the 3 juniors who prepared the rough text notes several times before this final version has come out. 5 teachers spent long hours. We had long video calls. Prior to that, they put a lot of effort, and then post the preparations, they added a lot of value. So I was thank following teachers. 2 of them at least are present here. Meenakshi, my good friend, who's 40 years with my friendship, and she's been a teacher, well-known, renowned teacher from the St. John's. Show your face to all the teachers. So she's one. Then we have Radhika Ravi from the Chaitanya school. She's again my cousin and a teacher who has done a lot of good for this program. And one from your own school, Ms. Deepa Arjun. I'm connected with her. I don't know whether she's here today, but if she is here, thank you, Deepa. It was wonderful talking to you. And one from a Delhi public school, my cousin, Mrs. Vaswati Vishwanathan. And one from a very leading school in Salem. She's been a teacher. In fact, she wanted this to be conveyed to Sheila. She's the niece of Mrs. Hema Nagarajan, your teacher, principal, and mentor. And she has worked in PSBB before she got married in the TP Road school. So Chitra Balaji, these are the teachers who helped us to frame this course. The third set of people I need to thank is the couple here, Mr. Rajgopal. They both are young, bright entrepreneurs who have been assisting hundreds of schools in South India with latest teaching tools. Very, very innovative, very current connected teaching aids and tools They are a resounding success in a very short span of just 3-4 years when they started this new venture. So they had a lot to contribute in terms of technological inputs. And finally, I had a chance to interact with parents, Mr. Suresh and Mrs. Aparna Suresh, and two young children of 9th standard, Gayatri and Savitri, twins, who are students of a leading school in Bangalore, to get the inputs from the students' perspective. So this research, right or wrong, has the components from the parents, from the teachers, from the institutions, and from the children, including people who facilitate aids to the schools. So these are 5 areas, people whom we met in preparing this talk. So, for any reason it goes well, the entire credit should go to those 50 people, because I'm only voicing their view, of course with passion and conviction. But the owners of the view are those 15 people. It's their ideas which are going to be conveyed to you, so the credit should go to them. It doesn't go well, then blame me. I have to take a responsibility for not having prepared it well. So with this background, let's understand what we are going to deal with in the next 15 minutes to 1 hour. What has pandemic, which came as a shock 2 years back, 2.5 years back, what did it do to schools and institutions and to school children? Following 4 things happened immediately. See, online schooling started as a necessity and had to stay as a solution for more than 2 years. It's the first impact of pandemic on schools. In the process, it gave unlimited and unrestricted access to children to technology. It's an offshoot of this emergence. The third was more leisure and lesser number of classes. We all had online schooling, but not the way we had regular schooling. So it gave a lot of leisure for the institution, for the teachers, for the parents, and also for the students. Not for you? All right, I'll take that back. That's good. Not for you. Okay, good. I thought I'll pass through this. I didn't pass through this because I failed with all those teachers also, I should say that. Good, that's the point. And of course, lastly, it dished out certain advantages and equally some disadvantages staying at home. So these are the 4 immediate impact on a school and school-going children. Now, before we, thanks Anita, I mentioned your name first for helping us. So now, before we talk about the negatives, because pandemic is always associated with a lot of negativity. So let's see whether there are some positive aspects out of this pandemic in spite of all these 4 deficiencies. Even though it was very, very marginal, the people who interacted with us in preparing this text did say it did have played a few positive roles, provided families and the children cooperated with each other and they could support each other. There are some positive takeaways out of this pandemic. What are they? Children started to learn at their own pace. That's one takeaway with some others gave. 2, because of technology, they had the opportunity to go back, look at the doubts, clarify it, effectively watch, and in the process gain knowledge. These are all marginal cases, but still positive takeaways. In the process, children, even though marginally, became self-reliant and started to understand learning as an enlarged process beyond textbooks. If the homes have been happy, which was a rarity, then it developed a lot of cohesion, a good bonding, and a feel-good factor, which again is not so universal, but this was also part of pandemic. And finally, because of online, it gave greater, now I understand why you all raised your voice for protest. It gave freedom leading to greater access to teachers. And the reverse side of it is nuisance to teachers. So these possibly could be taken as the positive sides of pandemic. But it left with about at least 8 to 10 issues on the negative front. So what are they? When it comes to compromise, because online was a necessity and it's settled down as a solution, which we saw. So it's a compromise, otherwise you have to close down. So we had a via media. So what has this compromise done to us, to all the children? It resulted in, we compromised on the quality of education, on the quality of school-going habits, and more importantly, in fact, somebody was very prompt in saying, infants who are to begin slant lines, straight lines, they lost those 2 valuable years. So, quality learning skills of infants were lost. These are 3 immediate compromises which happened out of pandemic. 2, exposure is okay, but overexposure to technology spoiled children. It's a universal complaint by everybody, whether parent or teacher or institution. 3, nuisance values, more importantly from grandmothers, sometimes from mothers. Because everybody will sit and start watching a school if they don't have anything else. So there was nothing to prevent this. See, teachers were virtually blocked. That's something which teachers raised it quite impactfully in the course of our discussion. We are simply left unguarded. You should know when we were on this VC and teaching people. Again, all and sundry will so be whether when we try, you switch off the video, people don't attend at all, or we don't know whether they are attending. So when you switch on to take roll call, we see different bizarre things. So our experience as a teacher has not been very comfortable. Is something which you have been passing through that aspect very clearly. 4th aspect is people who could hook and change and migrate to technology space and continue education was fine. It left a huge void in the society that denied and that deprived the class of education vis-a-vis people who could afford to continue education in some way or the other. So it's a huge divide in the society. 5th, most important, which we will be dealing at length, addiction. Addiction was a huge impact of COVID. Addiction is a very broad term. Addiction to so many habits and vices amongst people at home, having lost their jobs. And when it comes to children, it is addiction to technology. So addiction was a permanent feature during pandemic. 6, huge loss. Loss of lives, loss of health, loss of jobs, loss of wealth, and the uncertainty in life made homes very, very gloomy. It's a huge impact during COVID. As a result, the temperament and attitude of parents changed. And equally, the temperament of children correspondingly had an impact. And as a result, it led into a lot of unproductive activity amongst parents, amongst the senior people in the home, and harmful practices amongst children. In the process, children started to lose. There was a decline in their potential strengths. These are the impact. It has a huge. See, why I'm saying all this is, it's your responsibility to do the course correction. How are you going to do it? What's the new phase? How are we going to work the new area? So we need to understand what had happened in these 2 years to children. So there's a huge decline of potential strengths. And children completely lost the habit of so-called, at least so-called control and supervision. These 2 years have let the children off. So these are the 10 negative impacts which COVID had brought into our homes, affecting our children. Now, therefore, what do we do? Before we go to solutions, this phase of next 5 to 7 minutes is very crucial. Every experience in any human cycle will leave indelible impressions, will allow us to gather something out of it and learn and see what we can do for the future. What are the takeaways of pandemic? In this regard, I would like to only narrate what our Mahasannidhan, Jagat Guru Shri Bharati Tirtha Mahaswamigal said in one of the Anugraha Bhashanams. In fact, the invocation of Mata Sharada was so pleasing and soothing. And more importantly, the Guru Vandanam, one who offers obeisance to a Guru will never fail in life. It's a universal truth. Take it. So this institution will always be in the realm of glory. The way you have compiled and offered your samarpanam to your Guru as a guiding light. That guiding light will stay and guide you in your life. Have just no doubts about it. Sharada, she was talking about Namaste Sharade Devi Kashmira Puravasini. Yeah. Sarvakya Peetam is today in the POK. And now we are building Acharyals blessings. We are now building one temple of a replication of Sarvakya Peetam, the same dimensions. 57 kilometers from POK into India, that's the last border post, Titwa. So it's under construction, it's almost over. And we only wish such invocations will please Mata and we'll all go one day to Sarvakya Peetam itself. As many Punjabis go to Qatari corridor in the Pakistan. We should have that access at some point of time. Let's pray. So what did Acharyals say? This is the first takeaway. As teachers, we should understand as a concept. When Dharma starts declining in human society, the first indication will be there will be conflict in the society. You can verify it with history. Decline of Dharma results first in confusion. It intensifies, it leads to conflict, and it further intensifies when adharma occupies Dharma, eclipses Dharma, or subsumes Dharma. It results in a crisis followed by a disaster. 2020 is only that. It's an indication that we are now ready to adore adharma more than dharma. And nature showed its own fury in its own style, following this path of four. Confusion leading to conflict, conflict leading to crisis, and crisis followed by a disaster. It's the first takeaway of pandemic. The second takeaway is it all made us realize that nature is more powerful than human mind and human intellect. You could have stopped it with your science. You couldn't stop it. It came as a shock and it passed away on its own. We could do a lot of mitigative measures, is different. I'm not on that. Could we have prevented it? We couldn't have. Could we have extricated it through argument? We couldn't have. So, it proved to all of us that nature is all powerful than our small human mind. 3. There is Now, a clear thinking by every nation, every administrator, every individual, everybody thinks if there is a problem, there must be a solution. Fix it. Pandemic was not amenable to this formula. To say that every problem there will be a solution is not right. There are problems where you may not be able to find some solutions. So how do you now manage it is the question. This is the third takeaway. And finally, it reiterated and reaffirmed the principle that supremacy of spirituality over science. So these are the four major takeaways of pandemic. But look here, what is the current situation? The current situation is, ideally to say, very disappointing, because in spite of 2 years of whatever has happened to all of us, personal loss, personal life, personal impact, we have all gone back to our old days. Have we learned and changed one single bit out of this pandemic experience? Ask this question to yourself. Everybody was striving to get back to normal. And when it moved away, we got back to normal and we started doing whatever we were doing 2 years back. Therefore, we have not learned the lessons of the pandemic, which is what we call it in our usage, smasana vairagyam. What do you mean by smasana vairagyam? On seeing a dead body, we'll all come that evening and give great lectures of philosophy. Life is only this, life is only that. Next day morning, kafi varlana gali nambo. So, something like a pandemic which has rocked, stomped, virtually transformed our beliefs and thinking, could stay only as long it stayed with us, and not a bit thereafter. So we are back. Back to what? Continue to abuse, continue to exploit, continue to inflict damage on this Mother Earth, Bhuma Devi, who is considered to be the most tolerant and most patient in this universe. Mother and Matrubhumi is always matched because they are symbols of patience, symbols of tolerance, symbols of sacrifice, and they will take everything on them. So, my first request to the teachers, we can say this here because you are capable of taking it forward. Understand that going back to the same old ways, going back to the same old whatever mistakes we have been repeating is not, it cannot be the foundational pillars for building a new society post-pandemic. This is the first takeaway. As teachers, we should believe. Are we going to do the same thing the same way? In everything? If you can impart this to children, and if you can practice it to the extent possible, to the best extent, that extra effort, because you are teachers, you are definitely superior than the rest, because you lead the rest to a new world, a new order. So, can you first believe that the impact of pandemic must therefore translate into a better life, better quality of life, and how are we going to lead that to our children? The entire 20 minutes of this laying the roadmap is only to arrive at this point, this tipping point. We could have started from here, but unless we trace back, we cannot arrive at this place. So, teachers have an important role to play post-pandemic. Why I am saying this is, when everything has restored in terms of abuse, in terms of damage, in terms of two things are not there. They find it very difficult that restoration has not happened to the extent needed. In employment, there is a huge gap and there is a huge challenge. For example, one of the parents was talking to me who runs a huge cybersecurity agency services. The saying, we used to show 400 videos for a new recruit in the first 6 months to acclimatize himself to various things. Now, post-pandemic appointments, even from very leading MBA universities, we are not able to push beyond 180 videos in the 6 months. Their uptake is so slow. And today, work from home is opted by whom? Not by 50-year people or 60-year-old people. 20 to 28 looks to be the ones who want to first opt for work from home. So that is a challenge in this area. And the second major challenge is, how are we going to reinvent schooling? These are two major challenges post-pandemic. Therefore, there is a necessity for us to discuss this topic. So what are we going to do in future with our children? Can we stay as we are with all our old habits and impart education in the same style? Will it have an impact? Many parents, many teachers say, no, we need to reinvent. So, how are we going to reinvent? This is the starting point for 2023 and thereon. There are three major challenges which we need to ponder upon and find solutions. See, here we point out the issues, and whatever has occurred to us, we will share it. With your own personalized experience, you may be able to customize it much, much better, add more value to it, and contribute a better solutions to your children. Therefore, this is just an idea. If you find it as an eye-opener, then I think this talk has achieved its purpose. Beyond that, in 1 hour we can't do much, but certainly highlighting the problems and some solutions. What teachers want, what schools want, what children want. Every stakeholder was discussed, consulted before coming over here to speak. So there are three major challenges. How are we going to handle addiction to technology? This is one area which we need to work upon. 2, how are we going to handle between pampering, between negative emotions, and finally empowering a child? What is the significant difference between the three? Pampering leads to what? Negative strokes lead where? Empowering a child leads to where? In fact, this portion, to be very honest, reoriented at least myself. I do not know what's going to be the impact on all of you, but reoriented, I should say, confess that I should be more than a good father or not have survived, but I should be a better grandfather in my future. That's the first commitment I made to myself after understanding, talking with all these 15 people. The expectations of the next generations, and what they want from us, and how we should stay connected and be relevant to them. It's very important. So, the second issue is pampering negative emotions vis-a-vis empowering a child. And the third is we should accept it as a fact. Now, emotional issues is a very, very important factor in school. We were brushing it aside all these years. But we are reaching a point where we cannot afford it to be brushed. We have to handle it with some care, and we need to find out some solutions in this area. Because children come from different backgrounds. See, society was quite static and society was quite uniform decades ago. Now every home is customized. There's nothing called a static uniform pattern. So when children come here, the background of their parents are varied. I don't want to catalog all them in an open meeting, but you as teachers will easily figure what I mean it. Therefore, there will be cross-emotional issues amongst children. So how are we going to deal with this? So these are the three areas which we need to focus upon. First, addiction to technology. I have a very interesting narrative to share. You'll be wondering, this question was posed by a set of teachers to our Sannidhanam at Shringeri. See, as a part of a mission, one of our foundations do a lot of programs on Adi Shankara, because we speak about several heroes. But you can't find a hero much better than Adi Shankara and similar such spiritual leaders, which we don't speak at all. So, for the last 6-7 years, across South India, we're making our best efforts to go to schools and reach out. So, the final prize winners, along with their teachers, visit Shringeri and stay and have a darshan of Acharya. And this time, after the Anugraha Bhashanam, there was a question and answer session. They asked 10 questions. Teachers asked 10 questions. 2 of them are relevant for this topic. So, I'm sharing it here. So, the teachers posed a question. Children are addicted to technology. So, what is the solution you can give to us? And Acharya was very forthright. There's no mixing of words, or no trying to please anybody. He said 3 things. You have to be clear about 3 aspects. If you are clear about these 3 aspects, then you can handle this issue of addiction. See, when we talk of addiction, many of you would have seen that video. Getting addicted to online is equivalent to, or maybe of a higher degree of harm compared to smoking and drinking. Because it releases the same dopamine which other vices release. This is a scientific study. So, addiction to online is having a huge dopamine effect on every child and every parent. Like drinking, like smoking. So, this is something which we should be clearly concerned about it. So, Acharya said, first point, before you proceed to preach a solution to addiction, first practice de-addiction yourself. And that's why I said no mincing. So, please practice before you preach, so that children can emulate out of you. The second important guideline which he gave was, every one of us should understand the distinction between use and dependence. This clarity should be there amongst teachers, amongst parents, so that they can impart it to the children. This clarity should be there. Gadgets are meant to be only used. We cannot become dependent or become a slave to gadgets. Addiction starts exactly there. If you know to use it, you will know when not to use it also. If you exceed, and if the distinction between use and non-use and misuse starts blurring, Acharya says, if you transcend these 3, then you get into an area of dependence. It starts controlling you. So this is the second important distinction which we as teachers should bear it in mind. And the most important third aspect which he conveyed to the teachers was, he said this, look at this. If somebody walks on a road, he or she cannot be a cause of an accident. You can't inflict an accident when you walk. Somebody can inflict an accident on you, but you will not be doing it. Walking is safe, accident free. You start cycling. The percentage of getting caught into an accident is slightly more than walking. Then you start motorcycling instead of cycling. Then the level of possible accidents inflates. For motorcycling, you go into motor carring. It further escalates. Then you start flying finally. The risk is more in flying than in walking. So the concept which Acharya wanted to convey was to the teachers was this. Look here. Science leads to invention. Therefore, it gives lot of convenience. Remember, every convenience will have a proportionate increased responsibility in using the convenience. You can't drive a car only with accelerator without brake. Only with an accelerator. So this is something which you should train your children. You should train yourself first. Conceptually, you have to be clear. Every improvement in science leads to more convenient life. And any convenient life leads to higher responsibility of handling the convenience. When you walk, there is no maintenance at all. You don't have to maintain a vehicle. If you procure a vehicle, you have to maintain it. Responsibility starts from there. Then you have to know how to ride it properly, carefully. Follow the rules, follow the regulations. So all this gets attended to it. So when you talk about technology, which is very, very convenient, are you clear that you have a higher responsibility while handling this online practice? So this is one aspect. We'll come to little more practical solutions in a little way, but conceptual framework is very important. So this is one takeaway of addiction. Now the second question those teachers asked to Acharya was, because of addiction, there is distraction. That's the next question out of the 10. These are the first two questions posed by the teachers. So we find children getting distracted. So what's the solution you can offer to us, Swami? Then Acharya proceeds to answer them. 5 takeaways. 1. As teachers and as parents, you should believe 2 years there has been a period of leisure, sluggish period. Now you have moved from the sluggish period and therefore you have to compensate it, therefore you have to work hard. You can't be what you were, you can't be going at the same speed. Because there is a loss which needs to be compensated. So you must have a fresh, new vigor. Should reinvent yourself. As teachers, you have the responsibility. First point. 2. Once a teacher refigures herself or himself, then the institution and the children will also refigure, because the center point, the core point is the teacher. Second. 3. Children don't stay on beyond a few seconds to any lesson. The 35 minutes class or a 40 minutes class, how many seconds they were gathering themselves to watch. So, which all schools have now. Most of the teachers, most of the parents were saying, in 2 years they have started doing that. I think you can do it in a much, much better scale. Third is, what Acharya said is, convert classes into discussions and question answers. As much as is possible. Whenever it is possible. To whatever extent it is possible. Because it gives 2 solutions. A, the child has to participate and therefore it has to prepare. And 2, because it is part of a discussion, part of a question, part of an answer, there will be at least a section of them, at least their question they will be attentive. So, convert classes, instead of being a monologue, convert them into discussion types and then a question answer type whenever and wherever it is possible. 4. Please convey this message to the children and to the parents and to yourself. Scientific gadgets are only learning aids. They cannot substitute learning. This is a big, big mistake most of us do. They are only tools. Like a shoe, like a rope, like a car. It's only a tool. Because it's a car, can you put the car in the middle of your house? You can't. Because you have purchased a costly pair of shoes, can you come and keep it in the middle of your house? Shoe has to be only in the shoe rack. So we are clear about all these things, but not about technology. That's the mistake. So gadgets are only aids to learning, but not substitute learning. Learning is only through the body, mind, and the intellect. And the last point, we should be very clear, merely because we have gadgets, there is no shortcut to learning. It facilitates. There is a distinction between a facility and short-circuiting the process of learning. Children get distracted because they are feeling, they are assuming that we have this technology with us, therefore we don't have to do anything else, it will help us. This is the big mistake many children do. And therefore, no shortcut to learning. So this is as far as addiction is concerned. And the final guidance which came from the parents during the discussion was, they are suggesting two things. And just see whether it's workable. I leave that as it's only a suggestion. They said, look here, hereafter, we as parents will share our experiences. There must be a data bank by the school on the types of abuses using gadgets, so that one parent will certainly inform other parents and alarm them, because some parents are at home, some parents, both parents go to work, some have single parenting, some have parents in different places, children reading somewhere else. All these combinations we now see in society. So parents do not even have the benefit of knowing how the abuse is happening. If you have a parental locking, children know how to unlock it. So, a database of the types of possible abuses so that you are informed. These are the possibilities for children to tamper with your so-called security, which in fact, cyber security expect confirm there can never be a total vaccination or an insulation of anything. It's not possible. When you do that, there will always be a way to get over it. Because that is how science works for business purposes, which harms every child, every mother. And therefore, templating the data, resulting in a sort of a transparent discussion, which when I come to the parent teachers, how we could, association, how we can work in the future, we'll drop in a couple of tips there. So, this is something they are suggesting when it comes to the addiction of technology. Now coming to pampering and negative emotions and empowering. First, let us understand the distinction between the three states, so that if we are convinced, we will try to do something in this direction. All the parents during the discussion confirm, why do we pamper? Very honest opinion, because we wanted an honest opinion to be shared. They all said, we are very busy. We don't spend time with our children. Therefore, we try to cajole, we try to compromise, limited time available, we try to please them. And they take advantage and they exploit us. And this is the starting point of pampering. A very neat, clean admission. Absolutely no problem. But let us leave the side effects. These are the side effects which parents say because of pampering. The side effects are, a pampered child gets easily agitated. A pampered child has lesser resilient power. It can't stand up because it's getting everything it wants, its way. 3, it becomes easily restless. 4, it cribs. It knows cribbing. Cribbing will fetch us benefits. And 5, as a result, it is not conditioned or trained to face challenges. So pampered children end up here. Moment you face a challenge, they will simply buckle. And what happens? Parents join them and start when I come to the solution, blame game starts only here, between the parent, the tug of war between the parent and the teacher. So who is to fix the responsibility? Who is pampering? It's very difficult. It's more difficult than a judge deciding a case in a court of law. So pampering leads to these deficiencies. Negative emotions lead to the following consequences. Children easily become tough and harsh because they understand the mood. Things happen in their house amongst the seniors by trying to push. So they understand, let's push it hard as much as possible. Easy outlet of anger comes from negative children. Anger is a foundational belt because of negative emotions. They don't mind engaging in verbal fights. These are symptoms for negative emotions. And easily they develop the strongest negative emotion of hatred. Easy position to hate something. And therefore, they don't understand or appreciate what is pleasant life or a pleasant atmosphere. So pampering or negative emotions lead to this problem. Now what is empowering the child? This is where possibly teachers can work. These two contrasts is shown only to lead finally all of you here. Empowering requires a teacher to work with the students and allow them how to use their body, their mind, their intellect, their relationship, their bondage and their social connect and perform a task. This is what is now required in post-pandemic, more than education, because if it's all replete, you don't have to be teaching because you would have read it in the YouTube before coming to the class. And you try to find out, check up whether the teacher is as smart as him. This is all additive. Whether the teacher has oriented, whether she has seen the same YouTube, he'll be putting that question in his mind. So he'll be distracted. So we have to reorient this reality because it's flood and it's available and it's hands reach. And beyond a point, they're capable. So, how do we make them work their body, their mind, their intellect to at least optimal level? Empowering comes only when somebody is able to handle themselves. That is only empowerment. Otherwise, we will take either a leftist view or a rightist view, not a neutral view. The most liberal view or the most non-liberal view. Because whatever you can say, whatever you can do, there will be no order. See, a school has a discipline. Tomorrow, anybody can come anytime. Anybody can do anything. This is what is now society is preaching us. I have a right to say whatever I want to say. Who are you? So, there is no right or wrong. Everybody has a right to say something. If a school starts running that way, that is not empowerment. That is simply not empowerment. Empowerment requires discipline. It has to work on rules. Only then you can empower. You can't empower and say, let them, even in a cricket stadium, there's a boundary, there's a stadium. So, empowerment, the understanding by people that empower means letting them off is not empowerment. It will only lead to ruin. So, how to work with your mind, how to work with your body, how to work with the society in which you are placed is empowerment. So, schools now should concentrate in empowerment issues rather than knowledge parking issues. This is the biggest change post-pandemic. Is what every parent, every teacher, every school expects us to do. So how far we will do, how far the it's all a question. But these are ideas which I thought I should place it for you to how far it's workable. It's all it'll vary. It'll have to evolve over a period of time. But ideas needs to be shared. The whole exercise was only towards that objective. Now comes the fourth point. And interestingly, it came from parents. They are saying, look here, we pamper for our own conveniences. But children have to be made realize what are their duties, what are their responsibilities, and what are their experiences consequent to all this. So school has to take that responsibility. How far we are going to take it, we will discuss. So mothers are putting this request to schools. We do all this at the home. I agree. But school has to somehow take this responsibility. They must understand rights and wrongs somewhere. So it is pushed in. In the kind of talk we had with people. Now, therefore, last part is the emotional issue. With this, then we'll come to 5-6 solutions. 4:45. It started at 3:45, 4:45 trying to complete. The emotional issue is, now this is happening, each child has its own background and it comes with some disfigured notions. All that parents are requesting is this to the schools. So will I leave it here? How far it's worked? They say, don't traumatize it. If somebody is identified with an emotional issue, we should not traumatize it. That's one request. Don't start treating it as some sort of a medication to the child. Second, don't traumatize, don't treat. And need not be therapeutic. So they are now requesting, it looks like schools are already having such counselors and all. Facilitate. Don't make it an isolated affair of a child. Find out a way where there can be part of the learning curve, because children can adapt very easily. So instead of blaming it on a child or his or her circumstances and trying to fix the child somewhere which the child is hesitant about it, put that child as a part of the learning curve and see what he can do. That is a better way of handling an emotional issue with the child, because it has come to stay. We can't now say, no, all this is theoretical. No. Emotional conflicts are part of schooling now. Because society has undergone the uniform, sedate, slow pace of life has changed. This resulted in a lot of complexities. So this is exactly the 3 issues. Now what are the solutions? The first solution, which parents should realize first, and also as institution we have a responsibility, we should, the next parent teachers association meeting when Anita convenes along with the school, there should be a clear veto. Blame game should stop. Now the responsibility to take over the children it's a shared responsibility of the parents and the teachers. And if you do your role and they don't do, children are not going to evolve. If they do the role and you don't do the role, children are not going to evolve. So the biggest is making a very fair and a frank discussion, because you're all teachers, you'll understand it and appreciate it. This is not trying to fix somebody either as parents or as teachers, not at all. It's just a talk of understanding as to what this pandemic has revealed all these about school going children. That's the point. So the first takeaway for the new initiative is parents and teachers should converge and stop blaming each other in the larger interest of the child. So the body which does it, which is the Parent Teachers Association, should be quite vocal about it. Only then the precious life of small children can evolve in a better and give us a better output, is what everybody feels. So blame game. 2, parents should not substitute themselves as teachers. This is something you should make it very clear to them. Parents are parents and teachers are teachers. The line needs to be drawn now. If they start saying, no, you can do this, you can start educating a teacher what he or she should do, there's an institution to take care of the teacher. So, this is a very, very important aspect, because these 2 years of pandemic has given that access. Now, therefore, parents are suggesting, see, these are the models which are working currently in India. There are 2-3 models. What they have now found out post-pandemic, because of access, You want to complain, to take a phone and start at the teacher, shouting at teacher 8:30, 9, 10 o'clock at night and say why you are saying. Suddenly she will, which is the child? Because she will handle so many children. So there are schools which make it very clear, any issues, it has to go only to a coordinator in the school. No parent can complain about her child to a teacher directly. This is one model which is working. Some schools, the parents to whom I spoke in Bangalore, in one of the leading schools like our PSBB, that school says nothing doing. If you got anything, go ahead and then do it to the coordinator. Coordinator will talk to the teacher and find out what's the problem. And if there's a problem, we'll come back with a solution. So this is one model which will disable access of complaining to the teachers. One. The second model, which some others supported it and said this is also working amongst ourselves. See, these are all samples. You can think much better than this also. They said at least formative children up to 6th class, 8th class, 7th, 8th class, every class has a WhatsApp group for the parents. And there are good leaders amongst that the school can identify or they themselves can identify. It seems many issues are common amongst children. So they are able to sort out their problems first before trying to go and complain to a coordinator or go and complain to a teacher. So Parent Teachers Association should encourage this first interface amongst parents in that class. So going to a coordinator is one model, and there is a layer prior to that. The layer is trying to sort it out amongst the parents. It's because they belong to the same class. If one child says something else, it's reflective of the whole content of the class or the teacher, or it's an exception is something which the group can easily decide and figure it out. It's not very difficult. And you can figure out where the child is wrong or the teacher is wrong or parent is wrong. So this interface is something very, very, very important. Now the third solution which they are coming out, which again you should enforce it in your parenting, see, as far as possible, parents should be dissuaded by the children to complain to the school. Parents should be very sportive and encouraging. Don't come if you can sort out. This is something which the children to whom I spoke suggested, not parents. Children say, many a times we can sort out the problems ourselves. So why should my mother escalate it? I don't understand. Sometimes I'm very embarrassed that my mother comes and talks to the teacher or telephones the teacher or lodges a complaint. I'm put into some sort of a duck. So dissuasion from the parents' end. Similarly, dissuasion also from the teacher's end. The first part, don't go and complain it to, because you are right or wrong, you are left with a bunch of children which you should handle. That's your responsibility. It's part of your job. Please understand, every job has problems. Don't think teaching job is a problem. As an additional solicitor general, I know what I can. If I start dishing out some problems, it will be endless. So every assignment, every work will have problems. Peculiar and unique to that job. The art of doing a work is how do we manage it well. And in spite of problems, how do we still succeed in what we want to do? This is the whole mission of life, which is common to any profile. There's nothing called a clean profile without problems. There's nothing like that in this world. So this is one area where you have to take care of. Now the third point which they are all suggesting is, children are asking this. I'm surprised. See, when we talk to children, present day children are so smart. They say, please understand, ultimately school is for us. Very, very innocently put, but effectively put. School is for us. So whatever decisions you take, please take decisions in our interest, not in your interest. They're coming out so well and clear. They say, whatever you decide is fine. And in the process, they are requesting only two things. One, please make education very interesting. From regular, simple textbook coaching. If we are attracted towards teachers who make it interesting. And we are not attracted towards teachers who don't make it interesting. This is a place where we share everything. Therefore, I'm just leaving those things for you to what children think about school and teachers and what they expect of. So they are requesting, please make things. We will be attentive to anything that interests us. So do it interestingly. Is one request post-pandemic. At least you may say this is all something which was done earlier, but now this is giving us an opportunity to reinvent if possible as a whole package. So this is one request they are making. And the second request is a very, very humble request by parents. This may not apply to your school, but it can apply to other schools where teachers and the platform of upgradation. This is a problem in employment, this is a problem all over. See, when you have to communicate through a platform, then the two ends of the platform must be balanced. If one is upgraded, another is not upgraded, then there's a problem. In the conversation, it is mutual. Sometimes school is upgraded, but parents and children are not upgraded. It's both ways. It hits both ways. So what they want to know as a synergy is the platform must have a clean sync so that all of them are on the same page. See, this transparency is now slowly emerging out of necessity. Mothers realize this. Especially working people realize this. So they say, please put us on a common platform where we will be able to identify these are all things which are happening. So our children is fine. They are all taken care of. When it comes to enforcing discipline, this is one section which we need to, last 2-3 minutes, and complete with this. Enforcing discipline, we should be very clear post-pandemic, even pre-pandemic that was the situation, but it is a shared responsibility. It is not the responsibility of only the school. Merely because parents pay fees. The expectation is, today the world thinks like that. I pay something, therefore I should get something back. Bringing up a children is not just paying and putting on payment you get something out of the child. See, bringing the happiness making the child happy out of the child is an art, which many teachers have excelled. The people to whom we spoke and discussed are such teachers who excel. When a teacher resigned or went away, decided to go one day, the whole school cried. Look at the admiration they had for the teacher. See, can you compensate it with anything else? That's a unique feature of that teacher. Simple. So, now, therefore, enforcing, the question is, why should we enforce discipline? We were talking just before coming here only on that aspect. There is different views on it. Why should we enforce? The very word enforce is putting some sort of a limitation of a child. Look here, this is very clear. You may look it is very traditional, but we need to balance between traditional and modernity. A society without punishment will be an orderless society. See, we have an Indian penal code. We have criminal. It will be a mess. See, what applies to a society will not apply to children, I don't understand. We are talking very plainly. Because children are also part of the society. You see, suppose you can commit any crime. People have to only say, hey, you should pat and say, hey, you are not supposed to commit this crime, yeah. When will crime stop? It's not possible. So, of course, we have to change with times. I don't deny it. But to say, there must be a complete relaxation. They should be left to, even parents say, please don't do that. We are agreed. See, this is something which you should talk. You should talk and reframe a good rule book for the future. See, once you document and frame a policy, then it will stand for time. You don't have to be making it every time on every issue. So this is enforcement of some sort of a, without monitoring, without supervision, without a sort of a control. If you say control is a negative term, liberals have gone that far. You can't use the word control. How can you control a child? We didn't mean anything like that. See, usage of expressions becomes very tough now. This is happening in courts. An accused, hey, you have to deal him very mildly. You have to give him all the protection. You have to be very soft to him. But the law says so. So, somewhere, each we have to see. This is a trial and error. We have to strike a balance. But very important. No, 2-3 people can play an effective role. We're coming only to that. See, when you form the WhatsApp group amongst parents, you try to identify at least a couple of them who are good, who understand these concepts, and try to outsource some of this to them. Is one solution they are suggesting. So that they sort it out amongst that class. And they come back with one problem instead of 100 problems. So give them the responsibility to solve amongst themselves as much as possible. Because you can use technology very effectively also. So this is one solution they are saying. 2, parents are also agreeable. Look here, we do agree that there must be a rationing on gadgets. You tell us what support we should give to our children, we will cooperate. This is something coming from the parents. You need to ration on gadgets, I agree, then tell us how we work on it. Without rationing on gadgets, you cannot de-addict anybody. It's a truth we have to face and find a way to. You can say, I'll do everything, but still things have to happen. Things can happen, things need not happen. It's a gamble there. And last, children insist. When I ask them, how about at least some children to whom we talk, they are free from de-addiction. They are free from this addiction. No, they use it very effectively. I talk to those children also. And they say, 3 things had happened to us. That's why we are not suffering what many others suffer. A, we had rationing in our house and we subjected ourselves to that discipline. 2, we were asked to do lot of physical activity during COVID. Lot of physical activity because that is a antidote to dopamine effect. Physical activity detoxifies you from dopamine effect. It's a truth. It's a scientific truth. So we are doing a lot of physical activity, and we involved in lot of group plays. I was not left alone for 2 years, and therefore I did not seek loneliness more and more in my life. My parents ensured I am connected in some group and some group activity. So these are the 3 important takeaways which the children gave to us. You need to ration, we need to do physical activity, and we need to certainly work in group play. Engage, put us on some group play. Don't leave us alone. If you leave us alone, then we become lonely and we now resort to what we want to do. So these are the 3 things which children wanted schools and parents to consider. Of course, there's the last section. I thought I'll take 5 more minutes. And 5 more minutes, sorry, going beyond 1 hour. I just see, there are, ultimately, I will leave this script finally in a PPT and leave it to the school, no problem about it. This I saw in a video, Soulful Searcher, something. It's a good video. I just copied the essentials from that video only. Soulful Searcher, I just find that to put the source. They finally say, learning, all of us are now recognizing one fact. I want to leave it with this. Post-pandemic, we all realize we should go back to value-based education and not mere schooling. And a school like PSBB has been pioneering from Guru Andaram video, it's evident. They've been pioneering for 25-30 years this, which many schools have to catch up, and they are doing, in fact, to whatever extent possible. But value-based education is now the trusted requirement for everybody. Now, what do you mean by value-based education? These are the 10 takeaways. I just rush through them because of time. Because if you start expanding, there will be another 30-40 minutes. Some of the time. 10 takeaways. 1. Good health to the body and energy and vitality to the mind. This is exactly what empowering means. See, empowering means keeping the body, mind and intellect in its sharpest essence. It's an art. Nothing should deter you from what you want to put across. You can do that only when your mind, body and intellect strong. So 1. 2. The ability to love beyond oneself. It's a very important value because it detoxifies you from selfishness. 3. Encourage. See, somebody was saying how to recognize children even if they do wrong. How do we recognize them? See, if they do the things correctly, appreciate them. If you do the things wrongly, at some point of time, if we start them to make them understand what gratitude is a very, very important aspect. Many mistakes stop happening in human life once we develop the attitude of gratitude. It's a big detoxifier from committing mistakes. And why do they say so? They give an essential reason for it. In every other human emotion, you need the participation of the other person. In some way or the other, whether it's anger or love, you need two people. Gratitude comes just from the individual. You don't have to take it from anybody else, anything. This is the biggest and therefore it's the most powerful positive emotion. Impart the attitude of gratitude at the earliest stage in a human life. It will prevent the child from committing big major mistakes in life. Is one truth which many people agree upon. 4. Kindness and compassion along with gratitude, because it is kindness which leads to patience and tolerance. 5. Integrity. I saw your Guru Mandram, yeah. I in that yeah stands for integrity. See, you can have the whole world under your feet. I'm seeing such people in life. But I'm telling you very clearly as teachers to you, if you don't have integrity, you will not have peace of mind. And those who have integrity are assured of peace of mind. Don't worry about it. You will, something which nobody else can match. Your peace of mind is proportionate to the integrity which you preserve in your life. So integrity. Then, next to gratitude, what needs to be trained to a child is giving rather than taking. See, these are fundamentals. Gratitude and giving. If these two attitudes are imparted in a child's mind at a young age, you will find a lot of things happening nicely in the chemistry of the child. 7. We must be able to distinguish between growth and success. And okay, there are two terms. What is the identifying difference? Success is making money. Success is reaching pride. Success is acquiring wealth. But growth is, you must have a concept behind it. If you earn, what are you supposed to do with that? Unless you impart that value to a child, earning makes you see, earning money is a power. But money is not power. Because it will be with one person, tomorrow it will go somewhere else. But when it comes to a person, if that person doesn't know how to handle it, it's not worth earning then. Our Acharyals used to say repeatedly in the Anugraha Bhashamans, when you earn money, there are only 3 options. You can spend it on your own happiness. You can do good things. Or you can save. When you start saving or hoarding, the third aspect, which you should be saving to whatever needed level. If you start hoarding, then you are only a trustee to your own earnings. Because you are not using it effectively. So, with power comes responsibility. We want our children to be very powerful in society, but we should also teach our children power comes with coupled with responsibility. So you teach power without responsibility, then it will become mad. So this is the distinction which philosophers, practical philosophers encourage us to say, the distinction between growth and success. Eighth, never disown family, relationship, friendship, and society. You can't be an individual, ignoring or overlooking all these aspects. Ninth, if you follow the first 8 steps, it leads you to the 9th step of happiness. And once you reach a state of happiness, it leads you to the culminating climax, peace. Ultimately, human life is all about peace. A child should be peaceful to itself. See, the endeavor of every teacher, every guru, our spiritual guru always says, you come and pour everything to me, and I listen. Why? You feel finally pouring to me gives you peace. So I assure you that to you. So, peace is something which we cannot compromise. And unless teachers are at peace, you can't make the children peaceful. So, we wish and pray 2023 Happy New Year dawns a big leap of new innovative thoughts. These are shared thoughts, very few thoughts, very few seats. Some may be right, some may be wrong. And pardon if it's not correct in some sense, because these are all trial and error. We are all trying to learn. Whatever you can do with this and more, please do share. And thank you, Sheila, once again for this amazing. I look forward every year like a December kacheri for a musician. A speech in PSBB will make my year complete and I'll be at peace. Thank you so much for this.